Well, we have Mary in Florida with questions about churches and their political intervention, and it's a perfect time because Andrew's here to answer it. So welcome, Mary. Please ask Andrew your questions.
Hi, Mary.
Is Mary recalling us too?
What?
Mary, you're on the air.
Hi, Mary.
Yes.
Mary, why are you bugging?
I'm just wanting to know why, is the IRS afraid to go after televangelists and church preachers that tend to promote one particular political party? Does that just give fuel to the Christian nationalists, we'll call them, quotation marks, to say who their congregation should vote for president? How are they not losing their IRS status?
Yeah, great question, Mary. Really great question. And you don't have to put quotes around Christian nationalists. That is a thing, and many of them are that thing. So for people who don't know, the IRS regulations prevent 501c3s, charities, nonprofits, including churches, from engaging in partisan politics. So that means you can't endorse a party or a candidate for political office as your charity. I'm here representing FFRF, so I can't say, everybody should go vote for so-and-so. On my own personal YouTube channel or my personal Twitter, I'm free to go do that. I absolutely have the free speech rights to go do that on my own. It's just that you don't get to use your tax exemption to do the same thing, right? Tax exemption is a government privilege, and we've attached certain strings to that privilege, basically to make it so that charitable donations go to charitable work, not to political campaigns. So that's the rule. And the question Mary's asking is, well, why isn't that enforced against a lot of these churches that get involved in partisan politics? And it is. There's a couple things that are happening. One, for a long time, the IRS was deliberately neutered, essentially, by Congress, and they didn't have people at the right level to even be able to investigate churches. This was done deliberately by Christian nationalists in Congress. They passed a rule saying you have to investigate a church on this particular issue, you have to have somebody at the IRS that's at this level, and then they gutted the IRS at that level. That was one reason it wasn't happening for a long time. That said, FFRF, we report every year 10, 20, 30, sometimes 40 or so churches to the IRS for violating these rules. And when the IRS investigates, all of that information is confidential. We don't know what happens. So we actually don't have information on how often this is happening. The only way you would know is if it ended up in court, which it rarely would. So it's a fallacy to say that we absolutely know this isn't happening. I know it's frustrating because you do see it. You see churches out there doing it from time to time. But you also have to remember too, the lines are permissive. So for instance, churches and nonprofits can take stances on certain things, certainly on moral issues or on issues that touch the mission of the organization. It's just really they can't get specifically involved in a particular political race or on behalf of a particular political party. So Mary, if you got follow-ups on that, I'm happy to answer more of them. I know that's like kind of a lot of information that I threw at everybody. And I'll just add that's called the Johnson Amendment. That whole rule is called the Johnson Amendment.
Right.
Donald Trump promised to utterly destroy the Johnson Amendment. He said that he did that in a executive order that he signed on the National Day of Prayer in his first year in office. The Freedom from Religion Foundation sued that very same day on the National Day of Prayer. We took that case to court, to federal court, and Trump's Department of Justice came in and said, yeah, Donald Trump was lying. The executive order he signed doesn't do anything. We're not changing anything. The Johnson Amendment is still in place, and it's still enforced against churches the way it's always been.
Do they have to open their books to the IRS as if a private citizen would have to?
Yeah. So, I mean, Mary, that's a fantastic question. I'm so glad you asked it. Mary is not a plant, for anybody who's wondering. This is the first time I've heard her voice we've ever chatted.
No,
This is one of
I have
the things
questions.
that's this is one of the things that's really frustrating about churches is every other 501c3 in the country has to file some sort of financial disclosure with the IRS. The bigger the nonprofit, the bigger the charity, the bigger budget, the more you have to disclose to the IRS. If you're really little and you don't do much in the way of fundraising, you can fill out a little postcard and send it to the IRS. When you get to be a bigger organization, you have to fill out this Form 990. It has to be audited. It's a whole thing. And essentially, what you're doing is tracking every penny that comes into the organization and every penny that goes out. And churches don't have to file this. So churches, from the smallest to the biggest televangelist, prosperity gospel preacher, we have no idea what kind of money they take in or what kind of money goes out. So there is, in the Christian nationalist movement, a very big push to destroy the Johnson Amendment, to destroy the rules that prevent churches and other charities from getting involved in partisan politics. And one of the reasons for that is because churches don't have to file any financial disclosures with the IRS. They are financial and informational black holes. So if the Johnson Amendment were to be gutted or repealed or not enforced, you pair that with the fact that we have no idea what kind of money goes in and out of churches, all of a sudden you've got a situation that is infinitely worse than Citizens United. You've got churches operating as black hole super PACs, taking in who knows how much money, millions. It's not, it wouldn't be crazy to say billions of dollars and then funneling it to the candidates of their choice. And you'd have, you think about the Koch brothers, who all of a sudden have this way to wash their money and take massive write-offs on their taxes and get it all to candidates of their choice. It'd be much more efficient and alarming. So it's one reason that having the Johnson Amendment fully in place is super important, and that churches ought to be filing that paperwork with the IRS. And a number of the secular organizations, including the Freedom from Religion Foundation, have been working on that for years.
But you don't feel that would ever be put on, CNN or MSNBC, because it looks like you're going after Christians, and it just fuels the persecution, martyrdom complex.
But they're going to do that no matter what, right? Like they're going to claim persecution no matter what. I mean, they've been doing that. They're doing it with. They've managed to say that the universal health care measures in place to combat a lethal pandemic are somehow persecution of Christians in America. If they can do it with that, they can do it with absolutely anything. So I don't worry too much about giving them fodder for their fallacious claims of Christian persecution, because they're going to do that no matter what we do.
So things are being done that's just not general public knowledge.
Yeah, no, and the investigations into any of those churches have to be confidential, in fact. So yeah, the only way you'd ever find out about it is if it ended up in court, which is very, very rare. It's only happened once as far as I know, or the churches themselves start talking about it.
Right. Okay. Also, I'm a former Southern Baptist, church. Some of the stuff in Sunday school was now I know is very cherry picked, because there's a lot of stuff in there I had never heard about.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually have dreams of doing a study, and it'll probably be possible post-COVID, because so much of churches went online, that looks at the breadth of the Bible that is used in sermons on Sunday mornings. Because I tend to think that they focus on a very few passages most of the time, and maybe 60% of the Bible never gets a mention. Probably more than that, but yeah, I have visions of doing a study like that sometime, but I don't know when I'd get the time to do it. If anybody else wants to jump on that, let me know.
Yes. Okay. Well, I do also want to say I was a teacher for 32 years, early childhood. We had a moment of silence every morning before the pledge, and the students were free to if they want to say a prayer, silently say a prayer, but I would just sort of whisper, let's think about having a good day and working nicely with your friends and not pushing.
I mean, that would be
religion, more or less just humanist values,
Yeah, pausing to appreciate our shared humanity for 60 seconds every morning would be far more effective than.
Let's get a moment of science.
And
not creation science.
Yeah.
If creationism had been Florida textbooks follow Texas textbooks.
Yeah.
I'm early childhood, so we didn't get that deep into stuff, but I would have to say I would not, in good conscience, be able to. I would teach creationism as a hypothesis.
Better to leave that for the churches and
hypothesis.
Sunday schools.
Well, thanks a lot for the call, Mary. I appreciate it. Hopefully,
Mary, it was really nice chatting with you.
Thorough take on that. I'll get you there.
All right, thank you.
Pleasure.